I'm just going to set up the live stream, embed it, and then we'll kick this off. You guys excited?
Absolutely.
Any of you caught anything going on the summit so far?
I think that's a no.
I've been popping in and out, but I've got a day job, so and 3 kids, so I haven't done too much hanging out.
It's all good.
There's a lot of good speakers though. It's a good lineup.
Yeah.
We're here now.
I've heard a lot of them speak already, and pretty recently. So I tend to tune out after a while.
Yeah, but the audience that is attending, the intended audience, is really enjoying it from the feedback I've been getting. All right, look at that. Everything worked with 1 minute to spare. Let's just hang for 1 sec, and then I'll introduce us all, and away we go. All right, you all ready for our live panel? Here we are, welcome. Bestseller Summit Online, day 4. And today is all about choosing your publishing path for success. And you've seen a lot of speakers so far today, elaborating what are the differences, what are your options between self-publishing, traditional publishing, and then hybrid publishing, all these types of publishers like Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press that are in this middle area. And so today on our panel, we're diving into your path to publishing success and choosing the right publishing and promotional path for you, joined by 3 powerhouses in the author space. I'm going to switch to gallery view here so you can see them all. We've got Kevin Johns, Derek Depker, and Derek Murphy. How you doing, everybody?
Great.
Oh, wow. That was like right in unison. The 3 musketeers.
We're well trained.
Let's do a quick go around and have each of you sort of introduce yourself for everybody that may not already be aware of you, and sort of what your focus is in the author space, and something that's exciting to you now in the author publishing space. Maybe we can start with you, Kevin.
Sure. Yeah. My name is Kevin Johns. I'm an author and a writing coach, and I primarily work with first-time authors. So I do that one-on-one as well as through a group coaching program. And this idea of how are you going to get your book published is a big question for a lot of the authors that I work with. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this discussion because I think it's not a dichotomy, right? It's not just self-published or traditional. There's a million different routes in there. So I look forward to discussing that with everyone today.
And so would you primarily consider yourself a writing coach, Kevin? Or I know you also have some training and I think even a membership community.
Yeah, absolutely. But it all supports the coaching. Yeah, whether I'm putting out videos or hosting a podcast or doing a panel at a conference or whatever, it's really all about finding writers, aspiring authors who connect with me and the way I coach people through their projects. And so, yeah, it's about coaching authors to help them excel.
Sweet. Thank you very much, Kevin. Let's kick it over to Derek Depker. Derek, how you doing?
Doing well, Jesse. Glad to be here. So I'm a book marketing coach and consultant as well. And so I work with both beginner and experienced authors through coaching, training courses, group coaching, individual coaching, and so on. And I love this topic because I found that there's certain marketing principles that are going to be universal, whether a person wants to do self-publishing or decides hybrid publishing or traditional publishing. There's certain factors that you're going to need to know what each one entails and the skills that are necessary to develop for all of them. And then there's good options for each situation. So some people it's the traditional publishing route, some it's the hybrid, some it's the self. I think there's a place for all 3 of those platforms, and I'm looking forward to sharing more details about that.
Definitely. And one thing I'd point out with you, Derek, actually 2 things. First, I'd like to give you a very public thank you for being such an amazing, supportive partner. I know you've shared Bestseller Summit Online with hundreds and hundreds of people, and you've got a great audience, great community. It was great to have you on the Book Business and Brand Building Summit last year. So thanks for that. And I'd also like to point out that you created a training for Amazon ads, the Amazon marketing, the AMS ads platform that is just so darn good. And we've used your methodology for a number of marketing campaigns for our books. And I'd love to touch on that too over the course of this panel, because spoiler alert, whether you're traditionally published, self-published, you're still primarily responsible for marketing and selling your books as an author. And Derek Depker, you've created a great resource for people to do more of that.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out. And I'll say that's when you brought up something we're excited about with publishing. That is the big thing for me right now, 2016 into 2017. Advertising, it's awesome. And there's ways to do that, whether you're self-published, whether you're traditionally published, hybrid. Amazon provides advertising options for all different kinds of authors.
Oh, good. We're going to jump into that one big time. But first, Derek Murphy. Just getting to know you, but I know that you have a long and storied history in the author space. So maybe you could give an introduction for yourself and share something you're excited about nowadays.
Sure. I've been doing this about 10 years, and that was mostly I was doing book editing when I was getting my master's and my PhD, and I switched to book cover design. So that's mostly where I focused for the last 5 or 10 years. I put out a lot of resources to help people understand what kind of covers actually sell and how they can do their own cover design. More recently, I'm excited because I'm switching into fiction. I was talking a lot about book marketing, but the thing is, your marketing will always be limited by the demands of the market and by the quality of the product that you have. So there's only so much that I could do to help authors with something they've already written. I started just writing my own fiction so that I could really test how to build a platform quickly, how to make a full-time living as an author quickly, and that's going really well. So I've kind of stopped client work and now I'm just writing fiction full-time, which is really exciting for me. So I'm working on like a time travel dystopia novel, and I think that's a great way to make a living. So that's exciting.
Oh, great. I'm very happy to have more fiction represented on the summit. As I'm looking back now over the speakers that we have at and the topics that we've covered, I realize it's skewed kind of heavily towards nonfiction, but
a lot of the marketing is that fiction authors will say like, oh, it's nonfiction, but a lot of the marketing is the same. It's just building a platform, packaging your book well, putting it in front of readers. That what you do to market your book doesn't really change very much from fiction to nonfiction.
Perfect. Great. We're looking forward to diving into more of that in just a moment. Maybe we can get, maybe if there's an elephant in the room, let's just kill that thing first and talk about, is there any reason, is there any rationale for pursuing a traditional publishing deal today, 2017, with the proliferation of marketing opportunities through Amazon and the ability to self-publish and do print on demand? Anybody want to make an argument for pursuing a traditional publishing deal or working with a traditional publisher?
Yeah, I would say that often when people talk about traditional publishing, their first thought is a big 5 publishing deal, New York City, but there are tons of medium and small press publishers out there who can really, really help authors get their books into the world. I'm good friends with the folks at Renaissance Press here in Ottawa. And just one example of how a publisher can help you that people might not think about is when I go to events here in Ottawa, like comic book conventions or book conventions. These are great opportunities to sell books to people one-on-one and to meet people and to make connections and to do all the fun things that you could do at conferences like this one, only in real life. But in order to sell your books at a conference like that, it's $100 or $200 to buy a table. And then if it's me, a self-published author with 2 novels, say, I'm sitting there for all day for 2 days, hoping to sell enough novels to, cover table costs or whatever. And then I look over at my friends at Renaissance Publishing, and they have got, half a dozen authors all working together, doing shifts at their table. They've got a dozen books that they're selling, and it's just so much easier for them to recoup their costs. And they can also go and network and attend panels at conventions. And it's just one of those examples that we don't often think about. I think often we immediately think about New York and the big stuff, but even if you're a small time author who just want to get out books in your community, I think there is real value sometimes in being part of a team and then having a group of people there to support you.
Nice. Thanks for that perspective, Derek. And I know you were about to jump in too. What do you?
Yeah, I was actually going to say something else, but I kind of agree with that. The main advantage of getting published by somebody else is that somebody will take care of everything. And if they know what they're doing, they'll do a decent job with the basics, which are really important. However, that's not always true. There's a lot of small, for me, because I'm a cover designer, there's a lot of small independent publishers who are really trying to help authors, but they don't really have a design background. So even if you're getting a free cover and free editing and free formatting and stuff, if they're not doing the cover right, it may not be worth everything else. It is nicer because you don't have to do your own marketing. In theory, you have other people working together. That's all. It's great to have someone on your team who's doing stuff like that for you. I think if you're thinking about publishing with a company, you need to look at the covers that they have on their site. If that's their best representation and those covers aren't very good, like the cover is one of your most important pieces. So if you give up control of your cover to somebody else, that could really hurt you. And I think it's much, much harder to make any money if you publish with a traditional publisher. I would only do it if it was one of the big five and if they could get me into new audiences where I couldn't reach by myself. So like I plan to give a series or something away to a big publisher in the future, but I don't plan to earn from that. I plan to expand my market, but I would be giving up income to have something traditionally published because I know I would earn less. But it would be worth it for me if they were able to put the book in new places.
And thanks for sharing that, Derek. I do want to hear from you. I want to respond to one point that Derek Murphy made there, which, in terms of the closer towards the traditional side of the publishing spectrum of options, the further you go, the more control you give up in terms of the decisions you as the author get to make with regards to your book. Derek makes a great point that if you give up creative control over your cover, then you might end up with a book that doesn't look very hot, even if you spent a lot of time writing it. I will say, without throwing them under the bus here, that this was similar to my experience. My own book, Lifestyle Entrepreneur, published through Morgan James Publishing, and we've had David Hancock, the founder of Morgan James, on today on the summit. Fortunately, I didn't give up final creative control, but the covers that they initially designed for the book, I wasn't super happy with. So I had the option to go out and I had a design team create what ultimately became the cover, and then we continued on. Morgan James being more of a hybrid, leaning towards a traditional type of publisher, which by definition is sort of having distribution and a longer standing operational history in the market. Let me turn that over to Derek Depker. I think you had something to add to this.
Yeah, and I'll add to what you're saying there. And I haven't pursued a traditional publishing deal at this point right now, but I could see it being an option. Understanding the pros and cons, like you're talking about. Am I willing to give up control for a particular book for some of the perks that they can provide? And I would definitely say that if I were going to be doing that, I'd be looking at making sure the contract was definitely something that I had someone on my team, a lawyer who could really look at that and understand what are the consequences of this? Because I would imagine a traditional publisher is going to skew things in their favor, and there needs to be a bit of negotiation to really make sure that you as an author are protected and have a good deal. So it's about understanding, what am I giving up? I'm willing to give up some control. I'm willing to give up some royalties and some income if that means getting a broader reach, access to some of their resources, and taking some of those things off my hands, which, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, there's now more and more benefit of something like a hybrid publisher, which can now get some of that distribution and make some of those things available without the traditional publishing deal. That being said, I do see a number of big name authors, they go with a traditional publisher because there are certain perks with that. And so for me, I would be doing it not from the standpoint that it's necessarily going to make me the most money, but am I willing to get that broader reach and just know that they're going to have certain contacts and connections that could be a benefit to me. And I'm going to approach it as not an either or, but a both. I'm still going to have my self-published books or books that I have more control over, but I might like to toy with or play with, okay, I have a traditionally published book here or there, and you know, something that can get in a bookstore, either through traditional publishing or hybrid publishing, as opposed to trying to, you know, do the hustle myself of getting that same level of distribution.
Thanks for that, Derek. It actually brings up a great point, perhaps our next topic for discussion here, which is, you know, if you're more than a one book author, then there's a very good chance that you could pick and choose the right publishing situation for specific books. So maybe each of you can speak to some of your experience, because as you mentioned, Derek Depker, you have a number of books, and maybe one or some of them would lend themselves better to self-publishing or a hybrid or a traditional. Kevin, I know you work with a lot of authors and even do a lot of writing and writing coaching. So maybe you can all speak to if there's a specific genre or type of book or situation that lends itself towards one end of that publishing spectrum or another.
Yeah, I was speaking with Jeff Goins this week, who has a new book coming out called Real Artists Don't Starve. And he has a chapter in there about the importance of owning your work as an artist and not selling out. And yet his book is traditionally published. So I asked him, you know, why, as someone who's such a proponent of owning your own work and as someone who's been successful building such a big platform, why did you choose to do this traditionally? And what he said was exactly like what Derek just said about reach. And what he said was that I would actually prefer to make less money and reach more people with my book, because my book is the entryway into a larger funnel where I make my real money. And so I think that's one of the questions you need to ask yourself. Are you doing what Derek Murphy's doing, where the book is the product? He's a fiction author, and what he has to sell is that book. Or are you selling other products and your book is just the lead magnet or the entryway into a much larger funnel? And I think that will need to play in largely into whether you go traditional or whether you self-publish.
Derek Murphy, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'd comment with two things. One, like I have a lot of nonfiction books that are lead gen that bring into my funnel. I'm not doing it as well or as big as Jeff Goins is. But the nice thing about self-publishing is that I can put my books up for free. I can put them at 99 cents. I think I have several books on publishing and marketing that are #1 in the free store with no promotion for like the last 2 years, because there aren't very many nonfiction authors who are putting out perma-free books to build their list or whatever. So it's been a really easy way for me to stay really visible and upsell other products. But like you said, like that's your funnel is really important. If you're a nonfiction author, it's hard to make a lot of money with a book. So you might as well go for the reach and develop other products. With fiction, you can make a lot more money if you self-publish, and you need a lot of books. With young adult fiction especially, a lot of authors say they want to be traditionally published because it's very difficult to reach teenagers if you're self-published, because you can't do the same marketing things. Like you can't go out and try to sell to 14-year-olds because it's kind of weird. I hear that from a lot of authors. However, in my experience, it hasn't been very hard. If I put out free books, perma-free books on iBooks, where a lot of teenagers are hanging out and they just pick up free books, I don't like, if you're trying to sell books with advertising to a paid book, that's really hard to do. And it's much harder to do if you have a higher price point, like $6.99, $8.99 or whatever. I use free books to get people on my list. I haven't had any problems with visibility because I'm willing to give away, 50,000 books to build a list and then start selling them once the books stick really well on Amazon. That works really well for me. But if I want to, there is still a stigma, even in young adult fiction, where young adult fiction's readers appreciate a beautiful hardcover copy of the book, and that's what they really want. That's a different market. Like if you go traditional, you can have one of those books in bookstores and still not make any money and be a really successful, famous young adult author. Or like nobody knows who I am in the young adult fiction space, but I'm making pretty good money on Amazon anyway. So it's kind of it's a completely different market. Like it's not really a choice I think you have to make. I think people talk about going hybrid as if that's something you can just choose to do. For me, I want to sell, I think my goal was 100,000 books and build my list to like 50,000 readers so that I can go to a publisher and say, I'm doing really well. Now I have a new book. Would you, I want to have the control. When I go to a publisher, I want to have all the cards in my favor to make it really an easy decision for them so I can get their attention. And if you decide that you want to go traditional, like if you make a mental decision, you say, I think traditional publishing is for me, that doesn't mean you're going to get a publishing deal. They're still going to want to know if you have an audience, if you know anything about marketing. I think the biggest disadvantage about traditional publishing is that you give up all of your learning experience. It takes like 2 or 3 years just to figure out what you're doing. So even if you get a traditional publishing deal, 3 or 4 years later, you still don't know anything about publishing because you've had someone do it all for you. And so when you start over again in 3 or 4 years, because your book didn't sell very well and your publisher dropped your series, you're starting over from zero. So I think the big advantage of self-publishing is that you're really learning how to build a successful online business. You're learning all these other skills that you can use for a lot of different things. I think that's something people overlook. So there's advantages from self-publishing, even if you're not successful. The advantages in the education that you get.
Thank you so much for that. I want to dive into a couple of the points that you mentioned there, Derek Murphy, and then I want to give Derek Depker a chance to reply in terms of this approach of using ads to sell a book. But maybe before we do, 2 things can happen. Derek Murphy, maybe you can just explain what a perma-free book is for anybody here that's not familiar with that, and why you would set a book permanently for free on Amazon or iBooks, and what the benefits of doing that would be.
Perma-free means basically you can use Smashwords or Draft to Digital and set the price of the book at free, and then tell Amazon to price match the book. So if the book is 99 cents on Amazon, you can contact them with KDP Select and they'll put the price down to 0 to match the price on Kobo or iBooks or whatever. The advantage, some readers look for free books and they would rather take a chance on a free book. Even if a lot of them suck, they might find something they really like. It's been easier for me to reach more readers because my books are better than the average crappy free book. Even though there's still a lot of competition, most people do like a 5-day free campaign. They don't just leave their books free for long term. So I'll leave my books for free for like 3 or 4 months, hopefully till I get 100 reviews, and then I'll switch them to paid, and they stick really well because they have all this history, this conversion history, they have a lot of reviews. It's much easier for me, rather than spending a lot of money or time or effort on like a big marketing launch campaign and trying to get people to buy the book. I'll just give it away for free for a long time until people know it and they like it, they review it really well. Then I can just change the price and it will stick without a lot of effort or advertising. So that's kind of it's a choice. Rather than spending all my time and money on effort or advertising, I can set it for free and ignore it for 3 months and be writing another book. And that's a lot easier for me and it works pretty well.
It's a fascinating approach. And just to close the loop on that strategy, is it the case that on your free books, inside the book, there's an invitation to get something from you, get in touch with you, join your community, or purchase a product, so that this book, while it's being given away for free, accumulating reviews, is also actually building your audience, your readership, and your business?
Yeah, and I found I have more success with cliffhangers, and this wouldn't really work in nonfiction because you'd have to really satisfy and deliver your readers. But I think it's fine to have like a 10 or 15,000. I think even if you have a nonfiction book on a topic, you should be putting out several 10 or 20,000 word shorts. Even like a collection, like 5 nice long articles from your blog, you could turn into a short guide and put that on perma-free. If you have 3 or 4 of those with different long tail keywords, you're going to attract a much wider audience. With fiction, if I end on a cliffhanger, readers get upset, but they still want more. So they'll be like, I hate that this isn't a full book, but then they sign up to my email list to buy the full one because I've hooked them with a teaser. So that works.
Yeah, probably a great tactic for fiction. It's kind of hard to end a nonfiction book with a cliffhanger.
Right.
Derek Depker, let me turn it over to you, and please share, your thoughts on everything that's being discussed here so far, but also please touch on, how you're using Amazon ads to drive sales and have what I imagine is, net positive ROI on your ad spends for your books that do have a price.
Yeah. So to add to what's been said, a couple things that have been brought up is one thing to add to what Derek Murphy is saying is speed of implementation. The time it can take to get a traditional publishing deal and get the book out, it can take a while. So with self-publishing, you have that greater control. You get to learn quicker. You get to get things out there. I mean, for me, my first book was not very successful. but it still was successful in teaching me lessons that I needed that helped my next book. So with self-publishing, you can get books out quickly. You can start learning, seeing what works, what doesn't work, building your audience. And then you build that platform that if you want to go to a traditional publisher, you already have started to build a platform, build a name for yourself. You've learned the ins and outs, and then you're adding to that. Or you might say, hey, you know what? I'm making enough now with self-publishing. I don't even need or see the benefit to having a traditional publisher. So whereas with the traditional publishing route, like, you know, Kevin was saying for Jeff Goins, it's like he had already built that platform and he had the long-term game plan of this is for the reach and I have other ways of generating income. So really the question is, what is my goal and where does this fit into it? And there might be a place for traditional publishing as part of the bigger picture, or you might find that your self-publishing is a stepping stone, or you might find that self-publishing really gives you everything that you need to reach your goals, and traditional publishing might not even make any sense if you're making enough money and you get those books out there. So I love what's being said about the building your platform and the learning that you get from self-publishing. That's one of the big reasons that I'm into it. And as far as ads go, Amazon ads have been for me very profitable, and for the students that I've worked with, whether in fiction, nonfiction, across a variety of genres. And a couple quick tips on that. The first thing is, no ads will work, whether with Amazon ads or Facebook ads, if a book doesn't convert, if people don't want to buy it. So it's got to have all those core things, like great looking cover, catchy titles, particularly with nonfiction. It's got to have the reviews and the enticing description. So all those other elements are in place. But Amazon ads in particular work well because it's showing your book to people who are browsing similar books. So it's highly targeted, and the cost per click can get pretty low. So I found that you can get a positive ROI compared to something like Facebook ads, which is a little bit more challenging to turn ads right from Facebook into book sales and turn a profit on that. Not quite as easy to do, but on Amazon, people are looking to buy books. They'll see it, they'll click on it, more likely to do it. Of course, there's strategies and ways to do it and be profitable, which we could get into as much as you wanted.
Let's get into that a little. I'll share one thing that's worked well for me and some of our authors on driving book sales with a price point through Facebook ads, which is to offer something for free on the front end, whether it's a sample chapter or a checklist or a PDF or an action guide. So then you can do paid traffic, you can target people on Facebook and give them something for free. And then on the thank you page, I'll do a short video and say, hey, thanks so much for downloading the sample chapters or this checklist. And before you go, if you decide to buy a copy of my book or if somebody else's book, then you'll also get this other bonus that's valued at something like $97 to $197. So I had when Lifestyle Entrepreneur came out, I'd give away sample chapters or some other free resource and then offer people an audio training course I created, which I was also at some points selling for $197 if people bought the book and forwarded me the receipt. And that proved to be a good way to get book sales from advertising on other platforms. And just wanted to throw that one into the mix. Derek, maybe you can, and if anybody else has experience with Amazon ads, let's talk about that for a moment here. But Derek, what else should people know watching this, Derek Depker, about Amazon ads to be effective and to have a good campaign?
So what you can do with Amazon ads, and this is something I want to clarify. So Amazon ads have been out for several years. It's what's really been out since about 1 year ago was the sponsored products where you could actually target a keyword search. So if someone is searching for the search term entrepreneurial books or weight loss, or maybe they're searching an author name like Tim Ferriss, you can actually target you have your book show up when people are searching for those keywords in Amazon search and on other people's book pages. So if you've been to Amazon, you check out a book, you see sponsored products or the sponsored book area, that's where you can get your book showing up. So having a lot of different search terms that people are searching for. I have hundreds, if not upwards of 1,000+ different keywords that I can target and see what works and what doesn't work. So if you do it with like 5 different keywords, it's not enough to really see the traction that you can get. So having a lot of different keywords and, if you bid low, you're much more likely to get a profit, but not as much exposure. If you bid really high, you're more likely to get a lot more traffic, but maybe pay a higher price. So there's an art and a science to finding the ideal bid, but you can always bid and raise or lower your bid in an existing campaign when you see how well the keyword is performing. So it actually shows you, if I have a keyword for like, personal development books, I can see how well that's doing, how many people are clicking on it, what my average cost per click is, if that's leading to sales and how many sales. And so it gives you so much data. I mean, the great thing about doing ads is even if you just break even on ads, or if it's not like a huge money maker, you get data about the kind of search results people are using that's leading to clicks of your book and to sales of your books. And that alone can help you optimize your conversions and your book description and so on and so forth. So, there's a lot of nitty gritty details about the ads, but I would definitely say if you're not doing ads right now, to start exploring it and getting into it, because another perk of it is you only pay when someone clicks on your book. So if you can get thousands, tens of thousands of impressions basically for free. And you're only paying when someone's actually deciding to check out your book, which is different than a lot of times Facebook, you might be paying even if, just for the exposure, not the case on Amazon.
Great point. Many great points, actually. And I know this has been a game changer for you and your books, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's led, if you want some specific numbers, thousands of dollars in extra sales. In a matter of, like per month basis. So it's definitely, it's gotten a little bit more competitive, but it's still profitable over the few months. And like, the thing that I like about it is its consistency. So it's autopilot consistency. Once you get something going, like I was just on vacation, like book sales are still rolling in, still making profit because those ads are running versus the, kind of like the spikes that you might get by running a big launch or a relaunch or a, 3-day promotion, 5-day promotion. Those are still great to inject a big boost of sales. It's the ads though that keep that consistent, everyday sales are coming in, a few sales each day. And once again, when you get it set up right, the profit margin can be crazy good. Getting 2 times profit in most other places of advertising is crazy. You spend $1, you make $2. On Amazon ads, that can be, just par for the course. I've seen 3 to 5 times sometimes ROI on these ads. And I've seen, I think the craziest thing I saw for a client was spending about $20 and she made an extra, I think almost an extra $1,500 to $2,000 in book sales in about a month or so with $20 ad spend. That's not normal. That's not
like we should put an FTC disclaimer on that.
Yeah. That's not results not typical or whatever. I've seen that, which is crazy. But even for an author selling an extra $100 of books a month for,
it makes a big difference, especially if that book, like we've discussed on this panel, leads into your broader business and brand. Then even if you're breaking even on those book sales, factoring in the exposure you're getting with all those impressions, only paying for clicks, then it's a huge win. Derek and Kevin, anything you want to add to this discussion?
I have several comments. I'm trying to keep track of them. With Amazon ads, like you said, I think the greatest thing about advertising is you can test and figure out what sales copy works. A lot of authors, they just write their sales copy and they just leave it alone and they just focus more on marketing and promoting. But you have to test a lot of sales copy to see what converts the best. And that's kind of one of the best things to do with advertising, is just test a lot of things, see what converts, and then replace your Amazon sales copy with the best-selling sales copy, because that's going to make a huge difference in your ROI. And then also on Amazon ads, I have friends who spend like $20,000 a month and they make $60,000 a month. With fiction, you can make lots of money with fiction, but it's generally hard to do that with lower price, like a couple 99-cent books. So they have mostly box sets. If you have a series and you advertise the first one, or if you have a box set at $9.99, then you can afford to spend a lot of money on advertising and still see a return. And then also, the problem with Facebook advertising you were mentioning before, it's hard even to have a free book offer and use Facebook advertising for a free book. You won't convert very well. You'll spend a lot and get a couple hundred downloads. And with a free book offer, you want to get like 1,000 downloads the first day to get your rank up really high. I've had a lot of success with book giveaways instead. So rather than advertising like a free book, I'll advertise win these 10 hardcover books, and I'll just pick other books that are similar to mine in my genre or topic if it's nonfiction, which is also a great way to connect with, like, to position your book. So if I want my book to be in the same category, in the same field as these 10 other bestsellers by major authors, I'll put together a graphic that shows those 10 books and makes my book a peer of those authors. And then probably the authors will share my giveaway because I'm really doing free book promotion for them. So I'll advertise hard for the book giveaway to get people on my list who are interested in those books. So it's a really targeted list, and then I can use that for other things in the future. But in terms of Facebook advertising, I think a big giveaway with a big prize works a lot better than like a small free offer, a free book or something.
Oh, interesting. So you'll actually do the ad strategy you're talking about, not to buy one of your books in order to win this bundle, but just people can give you their name and email to register to win the whole bundle. And then now you've got a targeted list.
Because you're also figuring like you have to convince them that your free book is worth something to get them to sign up. And if they don't know who you are, they're probably not that interested. But if they see 10 other major best-selling authors that they recognize and books that they want, and you're just one of the 10, that makes it a lot easier. You don't have to work very hard to convince them that this is a valuable thing. They're going to want the prize right away. And then you're also only attracting a really targeted readership who wants those books if it's a specific topic. And it's really good for your also bot. So you're kind of positioning, like, I'll build up my email and then I'll make a list of like, these are the top 10 business books or whatever in my category. And I'll send my article to the list after the contest so that they can buy some of those books. So that will fix my also bots pretty well, because you need to decide like where your book, what your book's going to be associated with and what your also bots are going to look like. You need to pick the people you want your book to show up and then focus on getting people to buy a cross section of your book and those other books.
Very, very interesting. Maybe there's a way to tie together what Derek Depker has been talking about in terms of targeting the names of different books, targeting other authors that are comparable to your book, with your strategy, Derek Murphy, of doing a free giveaway of all the books that you want to have your book positioned amongst, not to mention the social proof that creates.
You can do that with product placement ads too, which I'm going to start pretty heavily, but you can just pick like the 3 bestsellers you want to focus on and advertise hard so that your book shows up next to those books. And it should, start to show up in the also bots.
Yeah. So for everybody watching, if that term's unfamiliar, you're talking about being selective to a degree on which books show up in the customers also bought row underneath your book on your book description page on Amazon. Kevin, let's bring you into the discussion and hear what your experience and that of your clients is with Amazon ads and different paid traffic marketing strategies.
Yeah. So anytime we're talking about marketing, I kind of come at this from a copywriting perspective. And in copywriting, there's no right answer. It's about testing. It's about exactly what Derek said, right? There's no perfect blurb. You try 6 different ones and you test and you see what works. And so just to bring the discussion back to the paths of publication idea, this is the real benefit of self-publishing. If Derek Murphy wants to go put up a new cover for his novel tomorrow, he's going to go do that. If Derek Depker wants to change his blurb, he can do that. If I want to do something with my book, I'm not going to a publisher for permission to do it. And in today's online marketing world, first off, we need to acknowledge that bookstores are dying out. Most people aren't purchasing in bookstores anymore. Having a single copy of your book spine out on a bookshelf in a bookstore isn't going to change your career. We really need to be thinking about marketing in terms of online marketing, and online marketing is changing. Facebook Live didn't exist a year and a half ago. Now everyone's doing it, right? And so you want to position yourself as an author in such a way that you can experiment with what's working today, because what was working with Facebook ads a year ago isn't what's working with Facebook ads today. And so I think, to bring it back to the whole publication side of things, that's the real benefit of being a self-published author. And I would say something, this is Derek Murphy should really be speaking to this. He's actually the expert in kind of experimentation. And but maybe I'll throw it back to him, but I know it's something he does all the time in terms of trying different methods, and the fact that he's self-published is what allows him to do that.
Let's do that. Before we do, I want to interject and share another perspective on publishing. We've looked at now traditional versus self-publishing, and this middle ground, this hybrid publishing model, really one that we try to embody and exemplify at Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press, splits the difference from what we've been talking about so far, in the sense that we provide, author services, publishing services, marketing support, but also leave a lot of power and more of the royalties with the author. So, we can provide distribution and strategy and publishing support and design and all that good stuff, but also be very responsive if our authors and when our authors are doing different types of promotions in terms of getting them the statistics and giving them tweaks and ideas, and that we're seeing with other books that are working. So a hybrid model is one such that you still have a lot of the creative control that you would in a self-publishing context, with more of the distribution, reach, and professional services like editing, design, layout, and so forth, and sitting sort of in that middle ground. Derek Murphy, happy to give you a chance to respond to Kevin's point there.
Well, just a comment on that. I think control over your publishing is really important, but also a blank canvas for an author is a really dangerous thing to have. So when you have control over your book cover design, 99% of the times authors are going to make the wrong decision and pick a cover that they like. Even if they're shown many options, they'll pick one that they like and feel comfortable with that isn't going to work. It doesn't attract the market, doesn't sell the books. If the author has total creative control and they make the wrong decision, nobody's going to stop them. And that's the danger of self-publishing, is that when you mess it up, there's nobody invested in fixing it for you. If you go with a big house, like a big five traditional publisher, they won't give you an option because they're going to use the cover that's going to sell the most books, because they have a vested interest. They're going to earn more if they pick the right cover. So that's something that's worth knowing, is that most authors make the wrong cover decision, and that's a danger. If you get the wrong cover, everything else you do marketing wise isn't going to work. So I have that issue. I've tried to teach authors certain covers sell, and you have to learn what sells in your genre, and you have to do probably the opposite of what you intuitively want to do. Every author wants to do something new and creative to stand out, and that's not what you want a cover to do. For me, like, I've published, my first book was like my first fiction was a mermaid romance novel. I published a year ago. I've changed the cover 4 times already, and I just do it to see if it's going to sell better. Now, what I've started to do with a new project, I'll publish the first 5 chapters, 10,000 words, with a cover, and I'll change the cover every month, and I'll put it on a perma-free, and I'll test the descriptions to find out if anybody likes it and to find out which cover is going to be the most successful. And then when the book is actually finished, I'll just use the cover that I've already tested. But it can have a huge impact, that like a different cover, if it's not connecting with the right audience. My first cover was doing well, and I really thought I was improving it by adding a different cover, which didn't perform very well. So I had to make a third cover and add that one in. Not only does it give me the flexibility to test, but also I don't assume that I'm making the right decision. So if sales aren't great, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do more marketing or more advertising. If your cover is killing sales, or it's your blurb or your description, that's what you need to fix, not just more promotion.
But maybe to add on to that point, Derek, do you ever test the title and subtitle as well as the cover design itself?
Yeah, that's tricky. You can change the title with KDP, even without starting over with a new project. Generally, I've heard some people say like they wanted a title that was completely unique because then they would show up when people search for it, which is, it's a good thought pattern. Like it's easy to rank for your own thing if nobody else is using it, but nobody is searching for that thing either because nobody knows about it. So there's a balance between visibility and conversion. A lot of times I'll use a lot of keywords even for fiction, like title of the book, young adult, mermaid, dystopian, vampire novel, whatever, a lot of keywords in the subtitle so that I show up when people search. But if you have too many keywords in the description, you're losing people because the sales copy has to hook their attention. It has to make them interested in the book. So if you have too much keyword stuffing and it's not hooking their attention, you're going to lose some people too. So you have to get them to find your book, but then you also have to get them to get into the story enough to buy the book or to get into the benefits enough to buy it. So it's kind of a balance. I do think it's important to test a lot of the sales copy and you need to know what people are searching for, and you want to be using keywords that they're searching for to show up. So I think that does still matter.
Derek Murphy, what do you have to say about title subtitle combinations in terms
Derek
of
Doper, right?
Oh, too many Dereks, but thank you, Derek Murphy. That was great insight. Derek Depker, what do you think about title subtitle combinations and how that plays into, generally being discovered with your book, as well as if you're doing paid traffic to your book for sales?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be a little bit more relevance to nonfiction when it comes to title, subtitle, when we're talking about things like keywords and stuff like that. So typically, you might have a romance book that might say like romance novel in the subtitle, but usually you're not going to see the book title called that. But what you might see in nonfiction is something, like business tips or weight loss strategies or something like that, trying to be put in the title or subtitle in order to rank for those keywords. And so what I was taught when I first started out was, that's what you need to do. You need to get your keywords in your title or subtitle so that way you rank for it and you get discovered. What I found has happened is that as Derek Murphy talked about, some people now then they take that a little bit too far and they stuff their title with keywords, and it loses its impact to the human that's actually going to see it. They're writing, sometimes I see self-published authors, they're writing so much for Amazon's algorithms that they forget that someone's actually going to see this and have to decide to buy it. So I tend to prioritize the impact that this is going to have for someone that's actually going to see the book. And if that means I don't have as many keywords or even no keywords in the title or subtitle, but it's a really captivating title, I'm going to choose to do that over a subtitle, or a keyword filled title that just isn't appealing. And part of the reason for that is because we have more means of discoverability nowadays with advertising and with different types of book promotion. I'm okay if my book isn't discovered as much through a keyword search because I have other means of getting eyeballs on that book. And when I get those eyeballs, I want to make sure that the title and subtitle is captivating, it's intriguing, and it's just irresistible to my target reader. And that comes from, as Derek Murphy's talked about, it comes from testing different title subtitles, running surveys, and doing a lot of research in that. And then ultimately at the end of the day, though, there's usually a way to do both. So there's usually a way to find a title or subtitle that is captivating, that's intriguing, and also you can usually get some keywords that are put in there. But I would drop the keywords if I need to in order to make it more intriguing versus trying to get the keywords in there but losing the impact to an actual human being.
Yep, good point. There is a balance. Derek Murphy, I want to ask you something, and I want to get your opinion on this, Kevin, too. In the fiction space, which is not my area of expertise, but it's my perception that fiction books don't always have a subtitle. So do you ever do anything or play around with using a subtitle that may describe your genre? You said something to the effect of like a dystopian mermaid fantasy novel, things of this effect. Is there a point to make on that?
Yeah, I usually do. I think you have to get people to see your book first before conversion is even a factor. So if you're not getting people to find your book on Amazon, it doesn't really matter. I also found out recently my perma-free books used to do really well. Right now, Amazon is kind of dampening them. So if you search for keywords, my perma-free books don't show up because Amazon doesn't want to really promote perma-free books because they're not making any money on them. They're still on the top of their category. So if you're searching by categories, it's really easy to find my books. But if you're searching by keywords, the perma-frees don't show up anymore, which is kind of interesting. But I agree, like if you have a keyword, it's important to have your book be found. If you don't have any other platform, then put keywords in your subtitles so that people find your book. But ideally, you would be building your own traffic generating platforms with content marketing so that you don't rely on people finding you on Amazon, so that they're coming to Amazon because you're sending them, because you've built your own traffic. I think it's important to own that traffic, because otherwise whatever happens on Amazon, a lot of people, they're making really good money and then it gets cut in half because Amazon changed something and they don't show up in search results anymore. And that happens pretty often. So you do want to be building your own kind of funnel, even for fiction. You want to be building some organic traffic. I think the hard part is that with nonfiction, people already know this stuff about keywords, so it's more competitive to stand out. So for nonfiction, you really do need one word or 2-word title that's brandable and stands out and cool and different, and then a really long tail subtitle that has a lot of keywords and benefits. For fiction authors don't do this stuff. They don't know anything about keywords or SEO. So I've been able to keep my books really visible just by doing basic online marketing things that most fiction authors don't do.
That's good. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity in the fiction space. And what I have seen is that fiction is overall a much bigger genre than nonfiction. So a lot of
much more
opportunity
profitable. Fiction readers read faster. So nonfiction readers might read like a book a month, maybe, and fiction readers will consume like 20 novels. So you can be the 20th book in a category and still sell tons of copies.
That's pretty powerful. Kevin, anything you want to add on this conversation thread here? And then I have a new question for you.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have been in the online space a bit longer than I have. I've only been at this for 4 or 5 years, and I gave up long ago chasing the magic organic snowball where things are just magically going to take off. Like Derek said, I'm convinced that 99% of the sales that I'm going to make of my books or of my courses or of my coaching is going to be from the hard work I put into building a platform, to putting out great content, to making genuine, real relationships and connections with actual human beings. So, I'm going to give thought to my subtitle and to the name of my book, but it's not going to keep me up at night that I haven't got as many keywords in as I want, because at the end of the day, I don't see a lot of sales of books or of courses or of anything from organic. For me, it's all come from real, genuine human relationships and connections.
Good. Well, that's a segue into what will probably be our final segment here. Time flies when we're talking book marketing and publishing, doesn't it, guys? So I want to do one go around here, starting with you, Kevin. What's an exciting trend or an opportunity that you see for authors, people in the author and online business space today, and for the coming months, that people on the summit can put into practice? And you can share this, as well as if you have any resource that you want to offer. Be sure to let everybody know how they can get in touch with you and learn more from you. And then we'll do one more time around like that and shut it down.
Yeah, so I think I'll echo what I said at the very beginning, which is just that I think so many authors are so new to the publishing world, and they really hear only self-publishing or only traditional Big Five New York. And I think the really exciting thing is that the publishing industry is changing, and that there's just so many other opportunities. Just like print on demand is such a monumental thing that we just take for granted now. Like, of course, I can just print one copy of my book. Like 15 years ago, that didn't exist. If you wanted to self-publish a book, you had 1,500 copies from a print run sitting in your garage. And so I would just say, it's overwhelming. It's certainly overwhelming for people, the number of choices that they have. But I think if they ask themselves what their goals are from one project to the next, from one book to the next, what is it they want to achieve with that book, it's going to help dictate what choices they're going to make and what path they're going to take on publishing. But I think the really big, exciting thing right now is that there's a heck of a lot of options out there for people. And so authors are able to choose the path that's best for them on a project to project basis, which is incredible.
I love that. And it ties right into the theme of today and this panel, and speaks to the fact that this is a time when you have more choice, more options, more opportunity. Even if bookstores are closing, book readership, the consumption of book content, has never been higher, facilitated by our friends at Amazon and other companies that facilitate things like print on demand and so forth. So thanks for that, Kevin. Kevin, where can people find out more about you and join your community?
Yeah, so at www.kevintjohns.com. And I have a link there for a free course people can take called the Author Mindset Success Formula, a free course that they can sign up for and enjoy.
Great. Thanks so much. We'll give you a chance to say goodbye at the end, but appreciate that contribution. Let's kick it over to Derek Depker.
So the thing that I'm excited about, as we already covered, was Amazon ads. I think that's really going to be, for me, it was a game changer, and for a lot of authors, students that I'm working with, that is a game changer for their business. And then I'll add something to that because we already discussed it, the audiobooks. That's another thing that I got into about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and seeing the potential that many authors now, you can actually really affordably and easily record your own audiobooks. Of course, you can hire someone else to do it, but to do it yourself is accessible. And I've seen sometimes more sales of audiobooks than I've seen of some of my ebooks. And there's bounties, which is like $50 every time someone signs up for Audible and gets your book. It's the first book. I mean, it's been a nice additional revenue stream, and it's not something that a lot of other authors are getting into, especially in the self-publishing world. And so it's still kind of this, I'd call it a little bit of an untapped market, but a huge market in terms of a lot of listeners, but just not tons of self-published authors getting in there. It's got that extra little bit of barrier of entry, which is perfect because then it keeps out the masses and keeps it less competitive. So audiobooks and advertising are two big things that I find myself coming back to and spreading the word on a lot. And then if you want to get in touch with me or learn more about how I can help with either of those things or book marketing, it's ebookbestsellersecrets.com/free book is a free copy of my book, Why Authors Fail. And that's also the way that you can get on the newsletter and get in touch with me if you have any questions or comments or things like that.
Awesome. Thanks. And for everybody watching this now or in the future, we'll link this up in the Facebook group with everybody sharing so that you can easily click through and learn more from each of our panelists. One thing I'd speak to, Derek Thepker, on your point, which I think is important. I agree, audiobooks are definitely a big opportunity, one that a lot of authors perhaps miss. And what I've noticed is, say you're running Amazon ads for your book or for a Kindle edition, that we're seeing spillover of sales of paperback and audiobooks. So people may discover or see your book for the first time on Amazon because of an ad you're running. Once they go to your page, then they say, oh, well, I actually want to read it in a paperback form, or I want to listen to it. And those I find are sort of somewhat distinct customer segments. Some people really like paperback. Some people are Kindle fans to the grave. And some people really only like listening to books, maybe on their commute or when they're exercising. So having each of those options available and then bringing traffic by whatever means to your book so people can discover it allows for people to select the reading experience they want of your book. And ultimately that drives more sales and gets you more readers. Thanks, Derek Depker, for that. That was a great tip and overall great contribution as usual. Derek Murphy, let's kick it over to you.
Okay, one thing to mention that came up kind of today, it's the danger of pluralism. So a lot of people, there's so many possibilities for publishing. There's so many different pieces of advice out there. A lot of authors will just go into default and say, well, if it's all the same, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to do what I like and what I want. A big part of my platform creativity is that you have to provide value to people if you want to make any money with a business. You have to be putting value into the world. A lot of authors, they're kind of just writing the book that they want to write for themselves, and they kind of hope it will sell, but they're not actually writing things to satisfy readers. They're writing things to satisfy themselves, and then they make the wrong choices with marketing or cover design because they just do what feels good to them, and they avoid whatever is uncomfortable. But if you want to, I don't even think, like, there's people who say that you have to make a choice between writing for yourself or writing for money. I don't think that's the issue, but I think you have to be either writing for yourself or writing for your readers. And I think it's always a better decision to write for readers and try to provide value and write something that's going to satisfy people. And if you want to do that, there's always a right way to do things. Like there's a right way of marketing your book that reaches more readers. It's the one that's the most successful. It's the one that gets the most sales and conversions. And there are books that will earn more because they're the right kind of books for the right kind of market. So I think it's a danger to be afraid of if you're overwhelmed by like the publishing industry and you just feel like it's all too much, some authors just want to do whatever makes them happy. And I think that's dangerous because there's definitely a right way to do things that results in more sales. And if you're not focused on the sales and you're just saying, I don't care about the sales, I'm just going to do what's comfortable. If you don't have any way to mark the success of the project, you don't know what's working, what's not working. So you don't know what to do more of. So I think the first step towards success is choosing success as the end goal. You want your book to reach more readers. That should be the goal. For a lot of authors, that's not the goal. And if that's not your goal, you'll never end up there. So you have to make that decision pretty early on. And then I was going to mention, I've been talking a lot about book giveaways because that's kind of what I'm doing now. That's what I've done to build my list to make my fiction successful. So I built a giveaway. I kind of partnered with someone to make a giveaway app. So if you use Gleam or King Sumo, I have an app that's kind of like that now for authors. That's Bookfetti, which I just set up. So that's kind of the new project I'm working on that I'll be talking more about if you want to do book giveaways to build your list. And then I put out Guerrilla Publishing as a book. You can get a free copy of that on my website. Creativeindeed.com/GP is Guerrilla Publishing. I'm going to update that soon with all the new stuff that I've learned in the last few months because things are changing so quickly. You can make a few small things. Like I didn't start using Amazon ads until recently, and that's been a big impact on my income. So little things like when you learn a new thing, it can change your entire business model.
I love it. Can you share that URL with us one more time?
Creativeindeed.com/GP for Guerrilla Publishing.
Great. Thanks for that. And let me wrap this up by giving a very special thank you on behalf of the whole Bestseller Summit Online audience to all of you. Really enjoyed the conversation. The time flew by. I think we covered a lot of important points, and I hope that all of you watching got a ton out of this as well. Just a final reminder before we close this down that today on day 4, we announced a new additional bonus for everybody that's gotten a VIP all access pass to Bestseller Summit Online. In addition to lifetime access to all 30 of the interviews and live panels, in addition to $2,288 of bonuses, you can now also get 3 free months of Thinkific online course creation software. And so if you haven't got yours already, you should lock this in before the summit ends for only $97. It's a pretty screaming deal. You can find that at bestsellersummitonline.com/order. And one more time, big round of applause for the panelists here. I'll put it on grid view. Thank you guys. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate everybody watching, and we'll see you on a future video.